Alright, hello again and welcome to the Chapter 6 video. We're going to be getting into 5-axis machining. I'm going to try to walk you through some different functions you probably haven't touched on yet and are being introduced to with 5-axis. 5-axis machining is different from 3+2 in that when the bit is cutting, it can be moved and rotated while it is moving along the curves of the part, while it's cutting the part, milling the part. So I'll walk you through some functions that are very useful for 5-axis, with the kind of complex curvature to these parts. So yes, let's get started. To start, obviously you're going to want to, this is the part we've created here. Thought of cool little curves, but then we're going to need to do with this stock it is a cube. We're going to need to rough down some of that excess over there, or else with some of these functions, the bit is going to just totally crash into the stock and it's going to wreck everything. And so if you try to compensate with that with the 5-axis tool, it'll end up having to do that really long back and forth action. If we go ahead and rough it, we'll be able to go kind of right to up to the part. So we're going to do a couple different things here. We'll just do a regular roughing at first, and then we will do a rough sweeping. So to begin the machining process here, like I said, we are going to do a roughing. Obviously first we need to set up our parameters here with the axis. That looks good. And then our tooling, which we'll have to set that to 5-axis machining now and select whatever is specified in the book. Do not have access to a computer right now as we are in the middle of coronavirus epidemic. So yeah, we'll just select our part that we're going to be using in cutting, and then also the stock. And then so for 5-axis we don't need to select a safety plane. You select that within your macros and micros towards the end. So obviously there's going to be a facing that'll need to be done, which you guys hopefully know how to do facing by now. I'm just going to go ahead and go to the roughing. So for 5-axis, you're going to be right-clicking the part and clicking Select Faces. That's just kind of what it is in 5-axis. Usually you select a whole part, maybe limit it. For the most part, you're going to see me just selecting faces. So for this roughing, I'm going to come in from the side, and you can see I can't select that plane as a bottom. So something's wrong with my tool axis, which determines which way the tool will be coming in to cut. So you need to just click an edge, click the tool axis, and then click an edge to get that in the right axis that you need. And then you can see that the bottom plane can now be selected. And that's as far as I want it to rough right now. I just want to make it easier for the sweeping roughing. So, like I said, I don't really have access to your tools, so I'm kind of making my own right now. So I'm going to make a end mill. Go about 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, so a big part of 5-axis is that tool axis. So yeah, just like everything else, you want the overlap and the cut depth to be less than 50% of the total diameter of the tool. So I'll create these micros here. We set up all these planes for the tool to come back to. Once it's done cutting, and reset. So usually it's going to be a little weird roughing because I didn't do that facing. See, we're taking a big chunk off here without the tool running into the part, and then this it is now because when I get out of that, because I didn't do that facing, and the offset from the part is too little. So now we can start with that sweeping roughing. Like I said, we're going to select a face. Right click, select face. We're going to be doing this one here. And like I said, we really need to focus on that tool axis and where that tool is going to be coming from. So click the tool axis and then select a face. And the arrow needs to be pointing where the tool is going to be coming from, so outward of the part. And the machining axis is going to tell you which way you're going to point it in the way that it's going to machine. So yeah, you set up your macros and micros. You can see what we have. See, if we hadn't roughed, that would have crashed right into the stock, that original roughing. So do our video analysis here, ignore the top. Yeah, you can see it starting to rough it down as if it was regular roughing, but in 5-axis mode. Make it a little more efficient. Pretty comfortable with that. So we'll move on actually to the other side of the part and do another sweep roughing for the other curved areas. Again, I'm going to select face, and we'll go ahead and just do this bottom one. You know what, let's do all of them. It's a roughing, so just getting the material down. I'm going to do a lot of those curved faces there. Again, selecting that tool axis is kind of important, which way the tool is going to be coming from, which can be any direction you want it. I like to click the face, or a certain face that'll be optimum, I guess, optimum angle to cut all the surfaces. And again, you want the arrow to be pointing out towards where the tool will be coming from to cut the part. So it'll be pointing away from the part. Again, set up your macros. So yeah, we're going to be using these planes just like you have in the 3+2. Make sure we're not running into the part as it is coming around to do the next process. This would be the retract. Alright, so there's a lot of stuff going on here. Just with the macros. So I'm going to go ahead and try something out here. Just made it simple because I feel like maybe the machine is constantly going back and forth between all three, but it looks like that didn't change anything, so try one more thing here. I'm actually going to, yeah, this is what it is. I'm going to hide the linking approach and retract ones, which are matched to do exactly what the approach and retract are, and that's causing it. Yeah, see, that calmed down a lot. So now as we look at this, you can see the problem. That is going way too deep into the part. That was very not ideal when machining. That would probably break a bit for sure and damage the machine a little bit. So I'm going to figure out what I can do to make it come in a little bit more from the top. That didn't change anything with the safety plane. So I'm going to do is I'm going to change the top of the part. I'm going to offset a plane, and I'm searching for something I can use. Oh, and there's some in the corners. There's like a point. You can click on that. It'll create a plane, and then I'm going to offset from that plane. A couple inches outward. You can see it's starting to get bigger there, so that way we're not running in. You can use that to not run into the part. That's a little better, you can see. I think we'll probably go with that. Yeah, so that is taking a little bit more time, but is not running recklessly into the part. So you can see that took it down really well, and to be able to go through again and later and get it within tolerance. Went ahead and added that facing because it was bothering me. So next up, once I delete this, we're going to do a multi-axis contour driven function here. And again, we're going to select the face. It's going to be that outside curve. Let me show you the ins and outs here. Let's go to that first tab. We need to select two guides, and we're going to, this is for the, when it kind of goes back and forth, we're going to use the top line, double click, and then the bottom line and double click. And zigzag is what we want. And then again, that tool axis is pretty important. Actually for this though, what we're focusing on is the view direction. So that becomes the tool axis once you, actually I'll explain that in a second here. We'll go do the normal stuff, making sure we got the right tool, and making sure the max cut depth is not more than 50%. So we'll go to the tool axis. This is what's cool about 5-axis is usually we have a fixed axis. You can see that there, which means it won't be able to move around the curvature. And this tool axis you can actually click right now. But we're going to actually change it to lead and tilt, which means that tool axis is going to go away, and we're now going to use the view axis to determine which way the tool is going to be coming in from. So I selected the face for that view axis, and you can see it looks pretty nice. It follows the curvature, unlike the 3+2. See, that feels pretty good. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one here. That will be the multi-axis sweeping. Turn it to the front of the part. We've already roughed it. So if again we go in here and select a face for the 5-axis. Select the bottom, click OK. So if we're going to be, especially in the last one I didn't have to use a ball end tool, but since we're kind of going in a divot, we're going to have to use a ball end bit to make sure we are not gouging the part and make sure the curvature is nice and smooth. If you're cutting around like the backside was, sort of, you can use that end mill, and the 5-axis will actually guide it exactly how it needs to be to keep it flat. But since we're going inwards, it would gouge the part, so we need that ball end. Again, we have the fixed axis, but for the 5-axis we can go lead and tilt, and we will select the view direction, which will be which way the tool will be coming from. I like to select the face and make sure it is pointing outward. So you can see that that'll be coming straight on there. The lead and tilt, it'll be able to adjust to the part. And the scallop height, I'm going to make kind of big right now. Or usually I will. Just that way it doesn't take forever to do the video result. And also a little piece on the bottom, that will be off. There's not going to be metal floating in the air when you're machining. So that's not something to worry about too much. But yeah, as you can see, the 5-axis is guiding it right along that curve. Which you wouldn't be able to get that kind of accuracy with like 3+2 or 3. So that's what's good about 5-axis. So I'm going to change the machining axis there to downwards, and you'll see that it'll change it from going down to up now to go up to down. So that's pretty big. Kind of understanding those different axes will help you a lot with getting the tool right on the part and being able to move that tool around however it is needed to get the best contours. So now I'll move on to that multi-axis contour driven again, and I'll show you with this next face in here. I'm thinking I could get bold and do both those faces, but I'm just going to go one so I don't start confusing everybody. But again, we'll have to select the guides. I'll select the top one and then double click and then guide 2 and select the bottom. Zigzag will work. Go to that radial tab. And the scallop height, like I said, actually if you want to just test it out so it doesn't take an hour to analyze your machining time, you can just increase that value. So I'm going to put it kind of up a little bit so we can just make sure that the tool path is correct. It'll take less time for it to load. So we'll go, again, just kind of emphasizing the lead and tilt here. We can select the view axis, then we'll kind of click the face again, and we'll kind of analyze what it does. Alright, so if we look at it, you can see it's missing a little bit on the left. So maybe we need to go back in and fix which way the tool's coming in from with that view axis. So go back in and edit a couple things, mess around with it. Just change the angle it's coming in so we can get as much of those contours as possible. And again, I'm using a ball mill because I'm going into the part, not really going around. So we'll try this. Just keep messing around with it. That looks good. It got that left side covered. Then we want to play the video here and take a look. Yeah, we did our sweeping. And make sure that we're not coming into contact with the part. The machine's coming into contact with the part. We want to make sure we're not destroying our part or the machine. All right. Looks like it's doing pretty good. Yeah, so you can kind of see that milled it out really nice, gave it a smooth edge. And then 2, for 5-axis with the lead and tilt, you can kind of manipulate the tilt angle and the lead angle to really optimize the curvature and the smoothness of the tool on the part, because you don't want it to be straight on top of that ball end. You want it to just be tilted a little bit so you can get the perfect smoothness, I guess, milling the part there. Probably should save the video so I don't have to keep going back and looking through. But here we are. So yeah, you just do as much as you can to make it as perfect as you can. It's going to be hard. You're probably going to have to go through and sand it a little bit anyway. There's going to be some machining marks on it. But yeah, you can kind of see we're optimizing the tool and what it can do. Yeah, so you can kind of see it's tilting a little bit there. But yeah, so the main things to take from Chapter 6 and the 5-axis is really when you're doing these multi-axis functions, you might have to manipulate the tool axis or the view axis and the lead and tilt if your part keeps going in or your tool keeps going in and going through the part. Obviously that's not good. In 5-axis, most of the time that's going to be because your tool axis is wrong. So go in and mess with that a little bit, rotate it around. It's a lot of trial and error. I mean, I've been through the class too, but don't get your hopes down. You will get it. Keep pushing and see the amazing things that CATIA can do and that machining can do. So hopefully you learned something, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video.